We're back, Rules and Public Policy Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we got some fireworks going on. Friday night, this committee happened and they approved the investigation on the Hogsett Administration and how they handled the Thomas Cook investigation on the sexual harassment uh, problems that they were having. So, just to backtrack a little bit, Mirror Indy had came out with an article, I think in July, and it explained how Thomas Cook, who was the right hand man of Joe Hogsett, well, apparently he was harassing some women because he was listening to the voices in the basement. That's right, was thinking with the wrong head. So they did an investigation on him. I guess a couple of them. They didn't really find anything. I think that's what happened. But he ended up resigning after like the third investigation and him getting suspended. But then he came back in 2023 to help out Hogsett during his third mayoral run. And now these women had come out and was explaining everybody to Mayor Indy of what happened. So there was a resolution that happened at the full council meeting last month saying we want to have a Hogsett investigation done. What the hell happened? Why did this even happen? Me personally, I think it's a coup. I mean, Hogsett has done such a shit job with the city, and this is what you're going to bust him for? Really? There is more questions on this than where he was during the 2020 riots. I mean, what the hell are we even doing here? But enough of me talking. Let's just get into it.
Welcome to the Rules and Public Policy Committee for this evening. We have two proposals in front of us, 287 and proposal number 288. I will ask my colleagues to please introduce themselves. And I'd like to start with actually a guest to our Rules Committee this evening, Chairwoman Krista Carlino.
Thank you, Mr. President. Krista Carlino, District 11, representing the far west side.
Thank you, Mr. President. Andy Nielsen, District 14, East Side.
Brianne Delaney, District 2 on the north side of Indianapolis, and I am not a member of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too am a guest. Jesse Brown from District 13. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. John
Look
Barr,
at that muskrat haircut of his. Not only does he actual stink, but now it looks like he actually stinks.
District 7. I'm also a guest, so I appreciate the chair.
This commie scumbag.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilor Mike Dilk, District 24.
Thank you, Mr. President. Josh Bain, District 21.
My favorite counselor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Paul Anay, District 22.
Thank you, Mr. President. Brian Mowry, District 25.
Thank you, Mr. President. Allie Brown, District 10.
Let's just pause for a moment. Let's look at everybody who has shown up to this meeting. Everybody looks dapper. They look professional, except for who? Allie Brown, looking like a slob.
Thank you, Mr. President. Renee Allen, District 15.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Dan Boots, District 3.
Mr. President, Leroy Robinson, District 1.
Good evening, Maggie Lewis, District 5.
Very good. I'm Bob Mosley, Chair of the Rules and Public Policy Committee. And we're going to begin this evening with a presentation by Chairwoman Carlino and Councilman Nielsen.
Thank you, Mr. President.
How funny it is that Krista Carlino and Leroy Robinson both got money from Thomas Cook, and they are on this resolution, this committee about the Hogsett Administration investigation. I think it was only $250, but let's not forget selling their soul for a very low price.
Tonight, our agenda, we are examining proposal number 287. At the August meeting of the full council, our body took a bipartisan stand to investigate the recent allegations against the Hogsett administration and campaign. By submitting proposals 287 and 288, this council sent a message that we would not rest until we better understood how we can better prevent those allegations from happening in the future. Tonight, after days of collaboration and discussion, Councilor Nielsen and I are before the Rules and Public Policy Committee to submit an amendment. And we'll also be presenting on what we believe is the best path forward for our city. The amendment before you tonight outlines the framework for and formation of an investigative committee made of council members and the authority to contract and seek legal and employment guidance from a law or human resources firm to assist in the review of investigations, trainings, policies, and practices within the Hogsett Administration. The council condemns these allegations and actions that we've seen in the media, and we continue to express our gratitude for the brave survivors coming forward. Under no circumstances should anyone employed by city agencies feel threatened, harassed, or intimidated. All citizens of Indianapolis should have confidence that city leaders are taking these matters seriously, and we're acting decisively tonight to protect employees who have come forward. The council's focus should be on implementing change and improvements that will bring greater accountability for all leaders, whether elected, appointed, or hired. And with that, I will send it to my colleague, Councilor Nielsen.
Thank you, Chairwoman Carlino. Good evening, members of the Rules of Public Policy Committee and other colleagues for joining us this evening. For members of the committee, you have a copy of this report in front of you as well as an amendment. We are presenting on an amendment to Proposal 287. So broadly, Amendment to Proposal 287 requires the Council to answer the following in its examination of allegations of sexual harassment and abuse by members of the Hogsett Administration. First, what were the policy failures in either the municipal code or HR policies related to those allegations? Second, what were the personnel failures related to those allegations? And finally, third, how can the council codify the changes needed to prevent future policy and personnel conflicts in the future across the city and the county? Next slide, please. So digging a little bit further into the details of the amendment is structured really in two primary ways. First, it creates an investigative committee that will contract with an independent employment attorney and/or human resources firm to work with and advise the committee on a number of items. They will be examining and investigating allegations of abuse by members of the Hogsett Administration and campaign, and evaluating proposed changes to human resources made by the administration as of today, and council, including but not limited to reporting, training, investigating, programming, services, and legal structure. It's important to note that the investigative committee will be bipartisan, comprised of 7 council members, 5 from the majority, 2 from the minority, and I would point committee members to Section 4 for that definition, and for this independent employment and human resources firm or firms. I'd also point to Section 2 of the amendment, which offers a very strong definition of what this amendment hopes to achieve in independent firms. Second, and this is in Section 8 of the proposed amendment, the resolution proposes immediate further action on sexual harassment training and consensual relationship agreements. This is a general resolution, so this type of legislation, as my colleagues are aware, does not allow for us to amend the revised code, so a further general ordinance is recommended to achieve these 2 policy objectives.
How funny is that going to be? Hey, if we're dating and we work together, we have to let everybody know about it. Yeah, we'll see how well that turns out. This is some horse shit, though. 7 members, 5 majority of and 2 minority. That means 5 Democrats and 2 Republicans. Bipartisan. Are you fucking kidding me? That's total bullshit.
Next slide, please. So here is a timeline and next steps based on how this amendment is structured and written. First, should the amendment succeed and Proposal 287 as amended pass this committee this evening, it will be sent to the full council for consideration on September 9th. No later than September 12th, the Committee on Committees will appoint the 7 members of the committee, and that will then lead to a 3-week deadline where the committee will meet for the first time, and it will elect its chair as a majority of through the majority of members of the committee. The committee will then hire a council and/or firms to carry out its work. And then the council, again, is encouraged to take further legislative action on sexual harassment training and consensual relationship agreements.
Hold on, legislative action? Oh, okay, and sexual harassment training and consensual. So you're going to have to make laws on consensual relationship agreements. Holy shit.
You see Section 5 of the amendment. I'll point you to Section 5.
Can you just imagine that? Okay, now how far did you go exactly? Was it a first date? Were you doing some smooching? Or is there some fucking? Whenever they're asking if co-workers are dating and like how far is it, then you have to make sub amendments to that, or like really fine details of what's allowed and what's not allowed.
In order to
see a lot of
provide
people losing
some
their
kind of
jobs.
structure as it relates to deadlines, this does have a proposed deadline of February 2025 for an interim report.
Interim report in February.
This is not in any way to limit the scope or otherwise limit the investigation, but is in a way to provide some sort of guardrail so that this committee, if it needs to, can come to the council and ask for an extension. So with that, I will turn it back over to Chairwoman Carlino.
Thank you, Councilor Nielsen. If we could go to the next slide, please, Madam Clerk. Just wanted to outline some of the commitments and the reason for this amendment tonight, why we feel so strongly about the language we're putting forward. We made a commitment, I believe, earlier this month and heard the calls from victims in the community for an independent investigation. And we believe that this proposal amendment does that, provides that independence, as well as a good judicial review of our current law. Additionally, as mentioned, the commitment to a full review of the law as it relates to our goal in this work as the city's legislative body. And perhaps foremost, and I should have maybe led with, the commitment to respecting and fully protecting the confidentiality of victims as much as within our power, of course. And then finally, a commitment to swift action as a means of prevention for future allegations of this kind. And then a visual on the next slide, just to sort of outline the work of both what we believe the committee to be doing as we form this committee and have them go through the framework and ask these questions and dig into some of the city code, HR structure, HR procedures, as well as employee programs, including but not limited to the employee handbook and other services offered through human resources, as well as having that outside expertise to sort of guide our work as a city-county agency. And with that, Mr. Chair, we will happily take questions and relinquish the floor to you, sir.
Very good. We have the amendment as proposed for proposal number 287 in front of us. Vice Chair Boots.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to amend the attachment to proposal number 287, 2024 by deleting the language that is stricken through and adding language that is underlined to read as follows. Proposal for a general resolution to create an investigative committee that contracts with an independent law firm and/or human resources firm or firms to thoroughly examine and investigate allegations against members of the Hogsett Administration and recommend policy changes and further action to address gaps in human resources policy and code, and to recommend further immediate action regarding sexual harassment training and workplace relationships. Whereas recent media coverage detailing the sexual harassment and abuse experienced by women while employed by the Hogsett Administration and campaign is unconscionable, and whereas the City County Council condemns these actions unconditionally and are grateful to the brave survivors for coming forward, and whereas under no circumstances should anyone employed by city agencies feel threatened, harassed, or intimidated. All citizens of Indianapolis should have confidence that city leaders are taking these matters seriously and acting decisively to protect employees who come forward. And whereas in order to ensure this type of abuse does not and cannot happen again, the council should use every power at its disposal to understand where and how systems failed, including through powers granted in Indiana Code 36-3-4-24 and Section 151-33 of the revised code. And whereas the council is committed to working to determine the necessary changes to the city's policies and systems to ensure a safe work environment for all employees now and into the future. And whereas the council agrees with longstanding human resources best practices that a consensual, sexual, or romantic relationship can never exist between a supervisor and a subordinate due to imbalance in power in the workplace. And whereas the council's priority is to create a workplace where every employee feels secure, valued, and supported. And whereas the council is focused on implementing improvements that will bring greater accountability for all leaders, whether elected, appointed, or hired. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City County Council of the City of Indianapolis and of Marion County, Indiana, Section 1, the Indianapolis City County Council hereby creates an investigative committee to examine the allegations made by individuals while employed by the Hogsett Administration and campaign. The committee will also evaluate and ratify proposed changes to human resources policies, including but not limited to creating a separate branch of human resources from the administration that explicitly addresses sexual harassment and other discrimination-related complaints, creating an anonymous reporting system, and strengthening mental health support through the Employee Assistance Program and additional behavioral health services. Section 2, the committee shall hire an independent law or human resources firm or more than one firm to thoroughly examine and investigate allegations of sexual harassment and abuse by members of the administration and assess how the administration addressed those allegations. Provide recommendations to remedy policy failures as a result of gaps in the revised code and the city's human resources structure and policies, and provide recommendations to remedy personnel failures related to any allegations, applying guidelines established through the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and recommending actions for reprimands, terminations, and/or criminal referrals. Section 3, an independent firm is defined as a firm that has no business, political, or financial ties to the City of Indianapolis, the Hogsett Administration and campaign, the council, and the 25 members of the council, and that has demonstrated expertise in investigating sexual harassment and misconduct allegations within the workplace. Upon the conclusion of the investigation, the independent firm shall prepare a report that details the findings from the investigation, recommends policy changes, and provides additional information it deems germane to advising the committee on any further action. After receiving and reviewing the report, the committee will recommend further action to be taken by the council. Section 4, the committee will be composed of 5 members from the majority party and 2 members from the minority party. The members of the committee shall be appointed by the committee on committees no later than 72 hours after passage of this general resolution. The chair of the committee shall be appointed by a simple majority of the members of the committee. Section 5, the committee shall meet no later than 21 days after passage of this general resolution. The committee shall meet at least once a month until the investigation concludes. Additional meetings shall be called upon the call of the chair or a simple majority of its members. 4 members of the committee shall constitute a quorum. The committee shall submit a tentative timeline of its work to the council within 14 days of its first meeting. The committee shall provide quarterly updates to the timeline to the council. The independent firm shall provide an interim report to the committee no later than February 28, 2025. All deadlines may be amended by the council at the recommendation of the committee. Section 6, the committee is granted express authority to subpoena witnesses and documents, both electronic and physical, as deemed necessary in accordance with Indiana Code 36-3-4-24 and Section 151-33 of the revised code. Subpoenas may be requested only by a simple majority of the members of the committee. Section 7, the committee shall refrain from obtaining any identifying information of a victim. However, the committee shall ensure that no identifying information of a victim is disclosed to any member of the public, elected official, or employee of the consolidated city.
We'll see.
This includes names, personal identifiers, and any information that could reasonably lead to the identification of a victim. The committee shall implement strict privacy protocols for securing and handling of sensitive information. The Indiana Access to Public Records Act, Indiana Code 5-14-3, shall apply to the committee and its work products. Section 8, the council recommends a further ordinance modifying revised code section 293 -304 to include all county employees in an annual mandatory sexual harassment training, and to amend and add, where appropriate, a requirement that all workplace relationships be disclosed to human resources through a consensual relationship agreement. Section 9, all funds shall be made available to carry out sections of this resolution.
Of course.
Mr. Chair, Mr. President, I so move.
All funds should be available. No matter how much this thing costs, just pony up. That's why it's going to be so important to make sure we find out who are these investigating firms or a council or whatever.
Motion has been properly moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Madam Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to the counselors for your presentation. Also, I would like to take a moment to thank those counselors that came together to pull together this thoughtful amendment. With your permission, Mr. President, I would like to remind my colleagues of some of our priorities.
Please proceed.
Thank you. I think it's so important that we work together to restore trust in our city leadership. Two, I think it's extremely important that we ensure that Indy is a place where every employee feels secure, safe, and valued. And then lastly, I want to remind us that we are committed to making the necessary changes to protect our current employees and our future employees. And then lastly, this is not a political move. This is not about politics. It really is about doing what is right for our community.
Is it though?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Leader. Vice President Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. This has been a lot of work for our members, and particularly the women of the council who have taken on a lot of this. So I
Carlino got money from Thomas Cook, so
really want to thank everybody who's worked on this, including, and the men who have taken on a lot of work on this. Councilor Nielsen, Councilor Barth, Councilor
she's
Robinson.
got that Ozempic face.
Chairman Barth, Chairman Robinson, and our president. The importance of this is that we're going to rebuild our trust in our systems. When I've heard from people in the building, when I've talked to them, is they're afraid to report because they're not sure that they're going to be taken seriously. And this is how we can control that they are there. They will be taken seriously. We are going to hear them. We're going to ensure that they are able to be protected throughout the whole process, and that they are able to say what they need to say. I apologize. I am a little nervous on this. This is a triggering issue for me, and I apologize for my stumbling here.
I am triggered. I am literally shaking.
But I just want to say this has been a work that we are doing to try to restore the trust of not only the employees of the enterprise, present and past, but also the trust of the people of Indianapolis, that we in the city council take very seriously this health and safety of everyone inside this building and inside of our county. So I encourage everyone to support this amendment and to support Proposal 287 so we can find answers and find solutions and get people justice.
Thank you, Madam Vice President.
Lady, look at yourself, all right? I don't trust you, and you look like a fucking slob. I can't trust you.
Your boots.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to emphasize the importance of our searching for an independent law firm and or HR firm or firms that has absolutely no ties to Indianapolis, no political ties, no business ties, no financial ties, that has to remove any internal bias to what we're doing. It's critically important that throughout this process we follow all EEOC guidelines and that we are in total federal compliance. And we do not want to jump out of the pan into the fire here, so we have to be careful in that regard. I think it's also important that we look at the aspects of mental health support services as we go through this. There's not enough of that in today's workforce, and with a sensitive topic this will be dealing with, I think it is critical that we have a concurrent program that also addresses the mental health needs of our employees. Our ultimate goal here is to have a more robust and effective system that is going to address the needs of all employees. I encourage everybody to support this proposal.
So what happens if they don't find anything? That's what I keep wondering. Are they going to find something? Is this a fishing expedition? And plus, like, say, obviously they're going to be updating the whole sexual harassment thing. What happens if a woman makes a claim and is completely wrong? Like, not even close to it. Because I'll give you an example. This last April, some woman accused some guy of raping her. And so he got arrested, and they went through all the videotapes and all the things that she claimed, because apparently this guy has security. Well done, sir. And ended up finding out he did nothing wrong. They didn't even screw. She was too drunk. He hit the couch, I think, and then he let her take the bedroom, but nothing happened. So when you have a situation like that, what's the consequence for the woman?
Very good. Councilor Bain.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Chairwoman Carlino and Councilor Nielsen for your work on this, and for council staff as well. You can certainly see that a lot of work has gone into it, and I'm glad to see that there's a lot of language from Proposal 288 in this as well. I do intend on supporting the amendment.
There's a reason why he said that, because the 287 that the Democrats pushed was like nothing. It was basically just we're going to update the sexual harassment policy. And then the Republicans come in and they bring in 288, and it's like, no, we want to open up an investigation. So now Democrats don't want to look bad because Republicans are showing them up, and they're like, oh, we got to do something. We only have a few weeks. Let's get this thing going. Oh, we're going to make this amazing amendment so we don't look like morons.
Did have maybe one clarifying question. It's in the preamble to the amendment, and it is also in section 1 when we say the Indianapolis City County Council hereby creates an investigating committee to examine the allegations made by individuals while employed by the Hogsett Administration and campaign. I want to focus on the and campaign part.
Yeah, that part's
What
weird.
is the scope that you see with the amendment you're offering for us to investigate a campaign?
Happy to take that. Thank you, Councilor Bain. Part of the structure of the amendment itself is to set the priority of the investigative committee, understanding that part of the reason we need to hire an independent firm is to get expert legal advice on the ability to actually do that. I second would point to the language asking the firm to go through the lens of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. There is guidelines and guidance even as early as this year that helps to expand, and Chairwoman Carlino can probably speak to this better than I can, but it can expand what an employee is within an adjacent employment opportunity such as a campaign. So the point of this is to give some guardrails to the investigative committee and to instruct them when they are working with the firm to look further at that.
So just to clarify, it is the intention of the investigating committee that the campaign, the Hogsett campaign, would be within the scope of their work.
That is how Section 1 reads, correct.
Okay, yeah, well, I appreciate the clarification on that, and like I said, I do intend on supporting this. To the fellow counselors on the committee and to staff, there are 3 amendments on your desk, 2 of them pertaining to proposal 287. Since I received a copy of the amendment we're discussing now a couple hours ago, any amendments that I have drafted since then would not meet our guidelines within the council for those amendments to be eligible for action. If we did adopt those amendments, we would either have to waive the rules of the council to allow those amendments, or we would have to postpone proposal 287 to the next rules committee. I certainly don't want to propose that we postpone this at all. So rather, I would hope that we would look at the 2 amendments that I'm referencing. One of them stipulates that subpoenas can be requested.
Mr. President, point of order. There's a motion on the floor.
And I'm
that speaks
discussing
to
that
this
motion.
amendment, right? There's already a motion on the floor speaking to one amendment. You can't introduce an amendment while we're addressing the current one.
I am not making a motion. I'm discussing the motion that
You're discussing your amendment. And again, we have an amendment. You pointed out 2 additional amendments. We have an amendment on the floor.
With all due respect, I think, Madam Leader, you are misunderstanding what I'm doing here.
So please clarify then what you are doing, Councilor Bain.
Yeah, so I am discussing the amendment. I'm discussing what I would like to see in the amendment. If we want to come back to this after we voted on the amendment, I'm fine with that.
I think that would be helpful so we have clarity and we can proceed forward.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, though, Councilor Bain. Minority Leader Mowry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I fully intend on supporting this proposal, and I appreciate all the hard work that's been put into this, and the fact that we can see some of 288 drafted into this 287 now, and I think we're making the right steps as a body to ensuring this doesn't happen again. One question I had about this was the composed makeup of this new committee. You know, until we started talking about this, I wasn't familiar with this ever happening in the city before, but yet it has. And it happened in 2013, I believe, to create an investigative committee to look into the financials of the Super Bowl. At that point, there was an equal split on the committee of Democrats and Republicans to ensure a checks and balance between the 2 parties and to ensure that not one party could control the entire committee. You know, as we look at this amendment, I would encourage us to consider that maybe moving forward as well as something that we should look at to ensure we have a true checks and balance, and that we have it very, very clear that this is not a political thing. It is very nonpartisan, and that we want equal representation from both caucuses to be present at these committee meetings. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Very good, thank you. Any additional comments from councilors? All right, seeing none, is there anyone in the room with an interest in proposal number 287 in the amendment?
Probably not.
All right. All right, very good. I think we have a motion on the table, a motion and a second. Proposal number 287 with an amendment. Let's go to Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would you like me to do a roll call vote?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Councilor Anay.
Councilor Anay, aye.
Councilor Allen.
Councilor Renee Allen, aye.
Councilor Bain.
Aye.
Councilor Boots.
Boots, aye.
Councilor Allie Brown.
Councilor Brown, aye.
Councilor Delk.
Councilor Delk, aye.
Councilor Lewis.
Lewis, aye.
Councilor Mowry.
Aye.
Councilor Nielsen.
Nielsen votes yes.
Councilor Robinson.
Robinson, aye.
Chair Osley.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The amendment passes.
All right, very good. Now we are ready to have any discussion as needed on proposal number 287 as amended. Councilor Bain.
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate the opportunity to speak on the proposal as amended. And like I was saying previously, you do have 2 amendments in front of you. I will not be offering them tonight. Rather, I am submitting them for your consideration because I do plan on offering them at the full council meeting unless we can find a way to even make the language stronger. The first amendment that I'd like to draw your attention to would be that each member of the committee would have the ability to request that subpoenas be issued. That is language that is taken from Congress. If you go to any standing committee in Congress, any member of the committees are eligible to do that. And that, again, just ensures that there are checks and balances. The other amendment would be that all documents collected or received by this independent firm and its work product would be made available to each member of the investigating committee on request. Again, I'm not submitting these for approval tonight, given that I received the other amendment about 2 hours ago. So this is what we are working off of and would appreciate your consideration. And I will be sure to do my due diligence over the coming weeks to work with the authors of Proposal 287 to see how we can make it even stronger. Thank you.
Very good. Any additional comments?
Which is like 2 weeks until the full council meeting.
All right, seeing none. Madam Clerk, if you'll do a roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilor Renee on the
Aye.
amended proposal.
Aye.
Councilor Allen.
Councilor Renee Allen, aye.
Councilor Bain.
Aye.
Councilor Boots.
Boots, aye.
Councilor Allie Brown.
Brown, aye.
Councilor Delk.
Councilor Dilk, aye.
Councilor Lewis.
Lewis, aye.
Councilor Mowry.
Aye.
Councilor Nielsen.
Nielsen votes yes.
Councilor Robinson.
Robinson, aye.
Chairman Osley.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Proposal passes as amended.
All right, very good. The next item on our agenda for this evening is proposal number 288, which forms a committee to investigate allegations against the mayor's office concerning the conduct of the former chief of staff, Thomas Cook.
Thank you,
Vice
Mr.
Chair, Vice Chair Boots, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think 288 is needless and redundant in view of what we just passed, and I don't think it's a judicious use of public resources. I hereby move that we remove Proposal 288 from the agenda.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Is there discussion? All right, seeing none. Anyone in the public with an interest in proposal number 288? Very good. Madam Clerk?
What is going on?
My apologies, Mr. Chair. Councilor Renee.
Aye.
Councilor Allen.
Councilor Renee Allen, aye.
Councilor Bain.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Just a point of order. I think it'd be appropriate going forward that leaders of the committees let councilors know if they are going to be motioning to move their proposals off of the agenda, because the authors of that proposal were already going to do that. So I vote aye.
Thank you. Councilor Boots.
Boots, aye.
So what happened was they were going, Minority Leader Mowry was going to take the proposal off the table, but Boots decided to interject, like, hey, I think we should take it off anyway. Well, guess what? He was going to do it anyway.
Councilor Allie Brown.
Brown, aye.
Councilor Delk.
Councilor Dilk, aye.
Councilor Lewis.
Lewis, aye.
Councilor Mowry.
Aye.
Councilor Nielsen.
Nielsen, aye.
Councilor Robinson.
Robinson, aye.
Chairman Osley.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have nothing else on our agenda for this evening. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved and seconded. Thank you all.
there we go. That was the end of the meeting. Got a lot of questions that still need to be answered, like how much money is this whole thing going to cost? And I know some of you out there, or a lot of the Democrats or whoever, are going to say, it doesn't matter how much it's going to cost us. These women deserve justice. And hey, I'm right there with you, but I would like to know how much the taxpayers are getting footed with the bill for. These committee meetings, will they be open to the public, and or will there be recording? Because I think this whole investigation needs to be open to everybody. We want to know what's going on. That's our money. Will there be consequences to the false accusations? I'm not talking about now, but when the updated policy happens, there will be a consequence for someone who will make false accusations, just like the rape story I told you a little bit about a bit ago. And, you know, this would all be solved if you just said their romantic relationships, consensual romantic relationships, are not allowed in the building or in general. This is government. It shouldn't be happening anyway. This isn't a McDonald's. Be professional. And I don't understand why they're going to meet once a month. If the investigation is happening, especially at the beginning, what are they going to talk about? And let's see, there's two more things. Each council member gets an extra bump in pay depending on how many committee meetings that there are. So is it going to be an extra $15 an hour, an extra $30 an hour that whoever is going to be the council on this committee? And the last one is, why is this not bipartisan? Why is this not done equally? 7-member committee, 5 Democrat, 2 Republican. Really? Not fair at all. That means Democrats are holding the chips. So I never want to hear from Democrats anymore about this whole supermajority in Indiana bullshit when they're doing the exact same thing. As you can tell, I'm lagging badly, so I'm going to wait to do any more videos until I get a different laptop, because this is very, very annoying. So, until next time.